A disability is something that has a major impact on your life.
Every disability is different.
And it's never the same thing for two people. I am blind in my right eye totally and partially sighted in my left eye.
I was 18 years old. We were traveling way too fast on a gravel road. Broke my neck, my back.
My Asperger's syndrome and my cerebral palsy.
I have anxiety and depression. People would have no idea just talking to me.
Being independent means different things to different people.
I want to live in my own house. I want to pay my own bills.
Live independently and not rely on other people.
When someone is not able to live as independently as they can, it does have a detrimental effect on people's physical and mental well-being.
It's no complicated thing. It's just that people with disabilities want to be included.
Plenty of people get stuck in ruts when they feel like they can't overcome something in their life. That's where LIFT comes in.
Living independently for today and tomorrow. LIFT. We help people of all ages and all types of disabilities find the resources or acquire the skills to live as independently as possible.
We serve the southeastern 18 counties here at the Billings office. We have a variety of things that we offer. We can help with grant funding for adaptive equipment.
Maybe a home modification so they're able to access their home. We help people to find that funding.
Helping people apply for Social Security benefits.
Medicaid, Medicare, housing.
They have a peer support group. Peer support, I think, is key.
Sharing life experiences is one of the most powerful things to help people who might be new to disability, who might be struggling with their disability.
Youth transitions is kids that are transitioning out of high school. They need to learn those adulting skills. It might be rent an apartment, learn how to grocery shop, budgeting.
Help someone advocate for themselves in a school or an employment setting. One of our biggest strengths is providing folks with information and referral. If we can't help you, we hope to know who can.
A lot of times we'll have a potential consumer call in and they think that they just have one need, and it turns out that we end up finding 3 or 4 things we can actually do for them.
You can just come in and say, hey, I feel like I have this going on. Can you help me? And we can, which is so cool to me. I love that.
Most of us on staff at LIFT have identified ourselves as having one or more disabilities. That is helpful in many cases.
It's easier to empathize with someone when you yourself have struggled with a disability.
This is what we specialize in. This is who we are, and this is what we do.
And it costs nothing to go to LIFT. It's a nonprofit organization and they're there to help.
Somebody that was a consumer that was working with LIFT was asked to do an art project. He visualized that the balloon helps to lift people up. And then it became the logo, and it's stuck.
There's been success on all kinds of levels.
It's really rewarding to have a consumer go, hey, I was able to do this by myself today.
We want people to live their best life as independent as possible.
Live as everyone else in society and live as a part of society, not apart from society.
Everybody needs help. Sometimes you just need a little more help, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
There's plenty of life to live still, and there's a way you can do it. Keep chipping away at it, little by little by little.
Knowledge is power. Let's share it, for crying out loud.
Send us an email, give us a call. We'll do our best to help.
We can definitely help figure out what your needs are and get started on that. We're one of many steps in the path to independence, and we're happy to be serving people here in the community. Hello, and welcome to Living Well in Montana. Living Well in Montana is a program provided to you by Living Independently for Today and Tomorrow, or LIFT. LIFT is an organization that is a center for independent living whose mission it is to advocate and offer resources and services to people with disabilities so that they can live healthy and happy lives in their communities. My name is Tanya Thomas. I am the peer program coordinator at LIFT, and I will be your host for today. Today in the studio, we have with us Jed Barton. Jed, welcome. I know you've hosted a lot of these, and we're glad to have you back as a guest.
Thanks, Tanya. Good to be here.
Oh, fantastic. So, as we know, we just got over and through the election. Can you tell us about what we have coming up next in the way of the process for the Montana legislature and the upcoming new session starting?
Sure. Thanks, Tanya. Again, one of my roles here at LIFT is that of government affairs specialist, and one of the things that I do a lot of is I keep tabs on the Montana legislature. So now that, as Tanya pointed out, the election has passed, the next big day on what I would call the systems change advocacy calendar is January 6th. That's the first Monday in January, and on that day the 69th biannual session of the Montana legislature opens. And what that means is that every other year, 150 lawmakers, 100 in the House, 50 in the Senate, come to Helena from their districts all across the state and meet to pass, most importantly, to pass the state's budget for the next 2-year cycle. And then in Montana, we also jam to within 90 working days, which comes to about 120 days overall, because they do take every Sunday off and many Saturdays, although they do work some Saturdays.
Okay.
It's interesting what will happen at a Saturday session of the legislature at times. But so between January 6th and about the 1st of May, give or take, there will be 90 legislative days where each where the House and the Senate will meet. They will pass a budget for the state of Montana to operate its state government and the various programs therein and that budget will go into effect on July 1st, 2025 and run to June 30th, 2027, I believe. And then the budget that will eventually be passed by the 2027 legislature will kick in. Again, in addition to passing the budget, which determines the level at which needed programs and services are funded, the legislature also has the responsibility to pass laws and regulations that talk about how state government operates and what we as people in the state, the laws we have to obey if for instance, the legislature could raise or lower the speed limit if they so chose. That's
Okay.
That's the sort of lawmaking they can do. Also it's up to the legislature to, and again, this is all in conjunction in our 3 branches of government, with the governor, who has to sign any legislation that is passed, and with the courts, who have the right and ability to interpret whether the legislation passed meets the standards of the Montana Constitution.
Okay.
And again, we've had as long as I can remember, we haven't had a legislative session where somebody didn't get upset at a bill that was passed and go to the courts and say, hey, doesn't meet the Montana Constitution, and oftentimes the court agrees with that person.
Wow. Okay.
So it's again, we have three equal branches of government. Again, the governor within the budget process in Montana, unlike the federal process where it's been ruled unconstitutional, Montana's Constitution specifically allows the governor to line item veto budget items. So the governor can go through the budget with a fine-tooth comb and say, I like most of it, but this one little thing here I want to change. And then that kicks it back to the legislature, who says okay or no.
Now, is that common for many states, or are we?
I don't know. I think if I had to guess, I would say a plurality of states have adopted the line item veto, because again, they attempted to adopt it at the federal level and in the 1990s, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled rather decisively that it was unconstitutional under the federal constitution, but each state's constitution governs its own budget process.
Okay. Now, so can you tell us a little bit about who the legislators are? You did mention the numbers. What?
There are 150, as I said, there are 150 legislators, 100 members of the House of Representatives, and 50 state senators. Each are elected through single-member districts, and 2 House districts comprise a Senate, make up the territory of a Senate district. That's where we get the 100 House members and the 50 senators. The split is, and they just decided a recount in Gallatin County. The split in the House is somewhere around 60 Republicans and 40 Democrats. And the split in the Senate, I believe, is somewhere around 35, maybe a few fewer than 35 Republicans and 15 Democrats. So again, it's a Republican majority. It is not the Republican supermajority that existed last time around, which means that it will be more difficult if the majority doesn't agree with itself to get to for them to pass legislation, or they will have to go to the minority and work out deals. So it overall, again, the closer you can get to roughly even, or roughly the percentage of, again, the statewide percentage of vote for each party is ideally what they look for. And when they draw the districts, again, we go through redistricting every 10 years on the heels of each census. And so this is the first session that these districts that exist now will exist. You may have noticed, if you looked at your ballot closely, that you were voting maybe for the same person, but they had a different number attached to them.
Okay, that's what that meant. Okay.
So, again, so there were legislators who ran for re-election, but they had to switch districts because of where they live and whatnot. So the session is 90 working days. Again, there are no Sunday sessions of the legislature. There are occasionally Saturdays, and again, some of the holidays that occur during that January to May time, particularly the Easter holiday. I don't remember when Easter is going to be this year. But they do take breaks. They do take a week break at about the 45th legislative day. That's called transmittal break, because at 45 days, a number of bills should have cleared one chamber and should be ready to go to the second chamber. Again, with a bicameral legislature, bills originate in either the House or the Senate. all bills related to the budget. Actually, I'll talk about the budget in a minute because they do it a little bit differently.
Okay.
And so again, bills that originate in the House are heard in a committee in the House and then heard by the full House, and if they're approved, they go over to the Senate, where a Senate committee, again, and the committees are made up or are divided on top issue areas. There's a Health and Human Services Committee, there's a Transportation Committee, there's a Local Government Committee, there's a Law and Justice Committee for the legal system, stuff like that. And so again, and then the bill would eventually may make its way to the governor, who can sign it or veto it or line item veto it, should he so choose. And if he does veto it, it goes back to the legislature, who can say who can choose to override the governor's veto with I believe it's a 2/3 majority vote. So that's kind of how a bill becomes law in a very rough sense. The budget is a little different.
Okay.
In order to make sure that they get through the process in 90 days, in the 90-day period, the budget is divided among several joint subcommittees consisting of House and Senate members who probably from day 2 or 3 of the legislature will begin hearing various sections of the budget. The section we're most familiar with at LIFT is Section B of the budget, if you look up the governor's budget, and that is the section related to Health and Human Services. And so there is a Section B subcommittee, or a Health and Human Services subcommittee, made up of a number of senators and representatives, and they go item by item through the budget. They break up the budget by the divisions within the Department of Public Health and Human Services, and each division has a series, one or more, depending on the size of the division and how many questions the legislators have and who needs to testify and whatnot, of hearings through the first month and a half or so of the legislative process. And then when the joint appropriations subcommittees have done their work, the budget, which because it's a bill that requires taxation and monetary, originates as a House bill. The state budget is always House Bill 2.
Okay.
House Bill 2 will then go from the subcommittees to the House Appropriations Committee, and then to the House floor, and then when the House has decided that they have a budget they can pass, and there are any number of amendments, and we start in Montana with a proposal from the governor. Unlike the federal proposal, you'll hear the president will release a budget. The federal level, Congress doesn't have to do anything but smile politely.
Okay.
In Montana, the basis of debate for the state budget is the legally required budget submitted by the governor, and from there, House Bill 2 is drafted, and what happens is that through the subcommittee process and House appropriations, and even occasionally on the House floor, and even occasionally in the Senate, whether in the Finance or Claims Committee or on the Senate floor, the budget is amended to add or subtract things as legislators so choose. So that's a bit different than the process for what we call regular bills. Some people call them cat and dog bills. I've never I've been doing this for 14 years and following Montana politics for 30, and I've never figured out the origin of that phrase.
Maybe somebody out there can let us know.
Yeah. So what'll happen at the legislature is in the morning they have those joint subcommittee meetings. This is at least during the first part of the legislative session.
Now, this is a typical day.
Yeah, this
Okay.
typical day at the legislature. In the morning, they will have those joint appropriation subcommittee meetings at least 2 or 3 times a week. Some regular committees of the House and Senate will meet in the morning on days where there aren't joint appropriations. And again, sometimes there will be multiple meetings going on at once and legislators have to go back and forth between meetings. It's just the nature of trying to fit all of this in. We're one of a handful of states left that don't meet every year, and we're certainly one of a handful of states that the number of days we meet is so short.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that short. I didn't realize
yeah,
it was just 90 days.
Wyoming meets for 60 days in budget years and 45 days in non-budget years, and again, that's relatively short. And you asked about who the legislators are. That means the legislators, this is not their full-time job.
Right.
They are a lot of, again, because of the nature of being able to be in Helena for 3 months, there are a lot of retirees, some government employees, some farmers and ranchers. Again, that's one of the reasons the legislature is when it is because it was set up on an agriculture schedule.
That makes good sense.
Um,
Jed, what are we looking at in terms of hot topic issues for centers of independent living like LIFT, like our...
Again, for LIFT and our fellow Centers for Independent Living, and we cooperate through a series of issue-specific task forces and a legislative advocacy committee. Obviously, the budget is always an important thing. Not only do LIFT and our fellow Centers for Independent Living receive funding for our basic programming from the state as well as from the feds, a lot of the programs the consumers we serve depend on, particularly Medicaid, in the Medicaid self-direct personal assistance program, again, run through this budget gauntlet. And so what we look for in the budget is what the number of, not only for the present law adjustments that are supposed to be there for inflation, although they're usually not enough. We hope to find that that not only are like last time we got a provider rate increase, and that means the amount of money the state pays us to administer the program or pays other providers to administer other Medicaid programs went up slightly. And again, that's very useful because, again, the cost of business keeps going up. Another thing we look for, particularly in terms of programs related to Medicaid waiver, are that the legislature will add and fund adequately more slots. A slot is what we call it, if I'm a person and I'm on Medicaid waiver, I fill one of those slots. So,
Okay.
And the more slots that are created and funded through the legislature, and again, Medicaid is a state-federal partnership. So, again, the more the state kicks in, the more the feds kick in at a rate that's, I think it's well over $2 federal for every one by the state. It may even be 3 or 4, depending on what program you're talking about.
If you had any advice for someone who is new to systems change, to advocacy, or just anybody in their community, what would it be about familiarizing themselves with
The legislature and has a website, leg.mt.gov, and they're in the middle of redoing it right now. And they have a thing where you can track legislation that you're interested in. Again, I've got a spreadsheet somewhere that's got all 2,192
Wow.
bills have been suggested by legislators.
Wow.
We'll see how many actually make it to a committee hearing.
That's pretty cool.
And so I go through that spreadsheet and I highlight bills that I think might affect the disability community and keep an eye on those. And obviously during the course of a session, anything's possible. Legislators can introduce bills till, depending on what kind of bill it is, until March.
Okay.
So you got to look for that. Again, in addition to the budget, some of the things we're watching for are some changes that we'd like to see made to disability parking regulations. Again, some changes were made in the last legislative session, and this, again, the fine for parking in a disabled spot has not been raised in 35 years or more. So it's not as onerous as it once was.
Yeah.
So people, and so that's part of it. Part of it is making sure that it's enforceable. There are some questions about what police and law enforcement can and can't do on private property that need to be addressed. See, I got a minute here.
Yeah, we about time to wrap it up.
Actually, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to bring up that since we are running out of time for today, if anybody is interested in learning about the resources and services available from Lyft, or any more about the information Jed shares with us today, if you're interested, please visit us online at www.liftt.org, or you can download our new app. You can find that in your iPhone and Android app stores, and check us out there. Do you have anything you want to say
No, that's
to finish
good.
us out?
Thanks, Tanya.
All right. Thank you, Jed. Thanks for being here. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on Living Well in Montana.